Thanks for staying with us. So we found this interesting story on social media about a young lady who lost her job as an on-air personality at a radio station because she had a speech problem. According to her, barely 1 month after her resumption of her duties, she was laid off because she could not pronounce the letter R. She couldn't pronounce this letter properly. Now, this was considered a misconduct. But however, many Nigerians on social media were blaming the company's HR department, saying that, did you not see it at the point of interviewing this person? What are your thoughts on this? Because we can connect this to people being ridiculed for having the H factors, people being ridiculed for pronouncing certain words a certain way, or people having certain accents, you know, at certain places of work. These are things that are relatable, and many Nigerians go through this every single day. And you just think to yourself, at what point do what's the proper way to certain things in our society? What are your thoughts on this? We'd like to hear your views. You can call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-7694. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your TVC so we can read your tweets. You know, when I read this story, I remembered a very close family member of mine wanted a job at a certain school. It was actually at Corona Secondary School, and because I went to Corona and I knew the principal, I went and said, oh, please, this person wants a job. You know, I tried to go there, and they interviewed the person, and the person then called me and said, Mariel, this person is very good, but she has an H factor. Now, it's not that we're not discriminating against her, but I know the children would laugh at her if she enters the school because we're teaching them to pronounce certain words in certain ways. So she's likely going to be ridiculed by the school, by the children. So I'd rather her go back, work on it, and then come back. So she found that very discriminatory, that, what is that? Because she was actually qualified for the job. It took a lot of, so when she came back, eventually she was hired. You know, she had gone back to work on herself, and then she was then hired. And she said she loved the job eventually, but it was the requirement at the time, not because it was a bad thing, but according to her, they just felt that, maybe not right now. So do you think that their language appropriate, there should be that's accepted in offices or versus where you work in? What are your thoughts when you read this story? Miriam, want to start?
Yeah. So, you know, first of all, we're Nigerians, and our accent is our accent. Especially you grew up here, you went to Nigerian schools, you go home to Nigerian parents, you only sound Nigerian. We have a few people, of course, who are able to watch TV and imitate Americans or British, and it works. But the thing, that's your accent, it will still pop out, you know. But I also understand the need for some of us to polish the way that we speak, polish our just speaking in general. And it's not necessarily about, I'm now not talking just because you have the H factor or the R factor. Sometimes it's just what you have. It cannot be worked on. So I know that people who grew up in the South, I hear that a lot. They will say Aru instead of R. You hear Aru, Elu, Emu. Do you understand? And I feel those sort of things can be worked on. But then there's some that is just, I don't know if it's maybe something you're used to, or it's a tongue twist that you have. And I hear some people, they have, the R is not so pronounced properly, or it does not sound full. It's not pronounced fully. And that is just, you know, nature. There's nothing that they can do about that. But having said that about polishing ourselves and polishing the way that we speak, there's also the need for us to understand that this is Nigeria, and then there's a way that we speak, and only Nigerians in many ways can speak to Nigerians. So if you're relatable to a Nigerian, there's some things that they will pay attention to you better and pay attention to you more because, oh, you're sounding like them. When you come off trying to speak posh, it's like, what's this person feeling like? Already there's a separation. So for me, I feel that there are different ways in which this can be for or against. Now, concerning a place like the radio station or the school, I feel with the radio station, first of all, because there was definitely an interview that was done, it seems discriminatory to me. It seems to me like this was something that was an afterthought. You must have heard her when you interviewed her. What happened in the 1 month? Was it something they said to her, could you work on this? And she wasn't able to. Now, when you say the school about children ridiculing, for me, I feel that's a weak excuse. We want our children to know that this is the way Nigerians speak. Americans would recognize the way an American speaks. And if you're non-American, they'll say, what's that accent, you know? We don't want our children to listen to an American. I don't always feel that having an accent means you're better at speaking English or you have better grammar. That should come first before your accent. Some of the international news stations that we watch would see them, the different ranges of accents. And we all hear them, we listen to them. It does not make them any less or any more intelligent than their counterparts. So I'm just trying to, putting all that together, I'm saying the accent itself is not the problem. It has to be the content of the conversation. It has to be the delivery.
So the accent was not in question here. It was the H factor. Because if I'm trying to teach you a certain way of pronouncing words, and then somebody comes to say it's orange. You're teaching you it's orange. Orange doesn't have to come. Orange doesn't come with an accent. Orange. And then somebody says orange. So you're not you as a teacher is not having to.
So okay.
You know, so that's
Irish people have accents. Scottish people.
It's not an accent thing. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. It's not an accent thing. It's a pronunciation thing. It's a different accent. They're two different things. Pronouncing is. Let me hear your initial thought.
Yes.
Come back to this conversation.
I know sometimes my kids will come home and then they'll tell me, I failed some words in my dictation, and I'll ask why. And they'll say, the teacher was pronouncing it a certain way, and I felt it was a certain word. Right. And by the time they now made the corrections on the board, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, but that's not the pronunciation you gave to me. But that's how the teacher sounds. Yeah. And I said, well, you have to understand that we have people who sound really Nigerian. Right. Yeah. And so when they give you that, you know, make that pronouncement, you need to ask them the meaning of the word so that you know exactly what they are talking about, especially for those people who add an extra H on top or remove a word. You know, you need to be sure. And it's something I have to keep going back and forth. It would have been easier as a parent that you got the pronunciations right as a teacher because you are paid for it, and it saves me that extra work that I have to put in. However, we need to be looking at inclusion, because I know that there are some defects that are natural. You come with it. You are born that way. You know, when you give birth to a baby, there's a way the tongue, sometimes in the hospitals, they have to lift something from the tongue. Some parents don't know about it, so they forget. The kids go home, and then they grow like that with that tongue. You can't,
tongue tie.
Yeah, tongue tie. Some people can't lift their tongue like this. Sometimes it affects how they speak. That's one. Secondly, we have mother tongue interference, and no matter how you train yourself to come out of it, it's just natural. That is how your first language has affected you. When we're having jobs like this, where you have to speak to people, we need to understand that this is Nigeria and we are peculiar. We need to find a form of originality. If you go to South Africa, there's a certain way they sound, and their English is recognized already. If you go to Ghana, there's a certain way they sound. Their English is recognized already. But in Nigeria, what I see is we all want to sound Oyibo, and there's no originality in how we sound. And people look down at you when you don't have that accent. When you come to a certain place and you're not speaking sopre, they look at you like this person does not really have it. In some places, others will focus on the content that you're giving. So in a case where you're going for a job, if you had told this person that, we can't take you, you don't even have to give, when you go for interviews, they don't give you an excuse why they can't take you. They're just like, you did not meet the qualification. But after taking this person, and you now realize that the H factor isn't going, maybe you have tried to train her, she's not picking up on it, letting her go just passes a sort of discriminatory message. Letting her go just makes her, it will make her feel even bad for something she is not at fault for having. So I think we should just find a way to understand. And I like what, I don't want to mention the name of this station, that came to Nigeria and realized that we can reach different people using our local accents. And they have a range of shows that attend to Nigerian people locally and is recognized worldwide. I think we can do it for ourselves.
We'll come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Hello.
Thanks for staying with us. We'd like to welcome Nima Akashat Zebiri. Traffic detained
How
you.
will I even respond?
Hey, once it rains in Nigeria, in Lagos, that's it, man.
It was heavy this morning. I was about to carry my bag and go and start my engines. And I just heard this heavy wind. I swear the first thing that came to mind was sleep. Then I felt I've become lazy these days. I've not been regular on the show.
You have been a kept wife.
I'm telling you. I forced myself, and I didn't find it funny. By 7:45, I I was still at, I had not gotten to Alakija.
Bele.
Wisest thing that happened to me. So I just kept getting into traffic. I pray that all of you on the Ikorodu road this morning.
God will
God will
help
give
you.
Get to.
Okay, so before you came, we're talking, in fact, myself and Mariam were having a back and forth on this issue of, there was a lady that was hired in a radio station. She worked there for a month. And then there was an issue with the fact that she kept pronouncing the letter R wrongly. And then she was eventually let go. And there were issues online. People were saying that was discriminatory of them to do that. It was wrong for that. Didn't they see how that she was pronouncing the letter R wrongly from the interview? I now connected that to Yoruba people having the H factor. Many people, I don't know about many other cultures, but I know Yorubas have that issue with H factor. Myself and Mara were not having back and forth because she's trying to make me understand that his accent is different. I said, I'm not talking about accent. Accent is not my conversation here because everybody can have accents. My own is the pronunciation. So when I was referring to the fact that I know somebody who may have issues being employed because she had an H factor, because we were worried the fact that the H factor might be a problem in the classroom in teaching, especially because it counters what the children have been taught. However, she was able to eventually work on it and then still got the job. But the point is that, so she was saying that person had an accent. And I'm saying, yes, accent is accent, but the pronunciation, anybody can pronounce with the H factor. I think so. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this issue? Was it wrong for them to sack that girl?
I call it a discrimination and a problem of acceptance of people's identity. So I see this common in Nigeria where people sort of accept anything foreign as the international standard, and then you're appealing to Nigerian audience. You know, here we were in that space for a long time. If you did not have it, you learn it. They call it locally acquired. They work hard at it to sound like someone else. You know, I've never seen a Chinese apologize for how they sound. Indians work hard at it, but they do not apologize for how they sound. But Africans, everywhere we go, inside our father's house, somebody saying, is that the way to say it? Why do you have that accent? You know, we're constantly judging ourselves, and we brought that to a public employment space. So I can understand if she was an English teacher. But the best of my law teachers had terrible local accents.
Don't say terrible, though. Don't
No, I'm going to say it like that.
Serious?
Serious, as in it was bad. And while other students concentrated in laughing,
You were looking at what you...
if you miss a thing, I remember deliberately saying to myself, if this man is teaching, it was law of thoughts. Nima, focus. If you see the level of failure, because everything that they missed while laughing in class was what he focused on his exams. And I was able to pass it because idea is need. The most important thing is that you're learning. But Nigerians, because we are used to it, to mock people's standards of speaking, everybody in class were doing that.
Well, are we hypocritical? Let me take this call.
Sorry, Mura, we bring it into public space. If you're a Nigerian radio and you have a Nigerian there,
Audience.
or the Nigerian, the fact that she can pronounce correctly is enough, but not, you know, the accent back and forth, judging what is genetically there. I'm Edo. I was born and raised in Lagos. I was able to escape certain things. I see my aunties and I used to say, if I was born and raised at home. But you know, sometimes when I get carried away, I lose my last consonants.
Yeah.
So it is genetic. It is in me, even though I was well-trained here.
The best
yes. So I lose my last consonant. Because I laugh about the H factor, I do it too now.
Let me take this call from Adedoyin. Good morning, Adedoyin. Are you there?
Hello, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
You are live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, for me, this topic is a quite interesting topic. For all I care, the truth is, the accent does not really determine the ability of anybody. You can't expect somebody in Ibadan to speak like somebody in Lagos. Or, you know, the state of a man define a state of nature. You understand? So, upbringing actually affects accent. You understand? So, you cannot. I feel it's discriminatory for me, for them to displace that woman, Steve. You know, somehow, for me, it's quite discriminating for me because accent does not really determine what you have up there.
Thank you very much, Adedoyin. Yes, Mary.
Okay, yes. So accent, pronunciation, I feel is the same thing. And as I was saying during the break that I'm such an Efiko, so I went to check it online, like what does it mean for, to have an accent? And it's not only about where you're brought up, it's also about your socioeconomic group, class. So what would happen is that someone who has more access to maybe better education is likely to be exposed to a proper or standardized way of pronouncing words than your counterpart who doesn't have that access to that sort of education and most likely to pronounce it with the influences of where with the influences of where you're from. Now, having said that, we have well-spoken Nigerians, not because they have an American accent or they have a British accent, but usually because they take the time to pronounce the words properly. So there's a proper way to pronounce words, and then there's an accent that would show up no matter how properly you pronounce it. And the accent is not only in the pronunciation, it also includes the tone of how, So I know I think my husband used to correct me. I used to say, develop. He would say, develop. Do you understand? It's still, for me, it's an accent. It's a Nigerian accent, say develop. Instead of develop, Or you hear someone say, like my son would say January. There's a way he says January. It's not that. So for me, I feel I want people to make that difference where it's okay to want to polish yourself and speak better, pronouncing the words properly, understanding the proper grammar. That is fantastic. It will be good on you anywhere. But to insist that someone sound American or British, and we have seen in our culture where those people are sort of, placed on a higher pedestal, no matter the content that they have or they lack, So that's for me.
There's something called local pronunciation of any word. So the Queen's standard is not the standard anywhere in the world. Recently, our laptops have been malfunctioning. So you have a word favor. I grew up spelling it with a U. But this laptop keeps doing spell correct.
That's American.
Oh. But who accept that one? Is it correct? Maybe that's somebody language. Is it correct? So there's a local way of pronouncing certain. It's develop. Develop budget.
Let me take this call from Hassan. Hassan, are you there? You've been holding for a while. Hassan, are you there?
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I can see a mix-up here.
Okay.
We are mixing pronunciation with intonation. You see, intonation has to do with something habitual. Pronunciation is a standard. You see, the problem that girl has is the problem of phonology. And it can be worked on. First of all, we should ask her employer how she got employed. But for you to sack somebody 1 month down the line, that means you did not do your job very well. And this issue of phonology we worked on. Even the Yorubas that are having problem with H, a lot of Yorubas were worked on, and they are now working with H. I don't think it's a problem. And when you look at intonation, you see, even a white man, they don't like us speaking like them. They want us to be natural. Natural in the sense that when you are speaking English, they will know that this is a Nigerian speaking English, this is an Indian speaking English, this is an Arab speaking English.
Thank you.
What you see here is this. We fail to understand one thing, that exception does not dispute the rule. The meaning remains the meaning. The understanding is still there. In language, we have different aspects of it. There's syntactical aspect of language. There's phonological aspect of language. There's morphological aspect of language. There's syntactical aspect of language.
Okay, let's. Thank you very much, Hassan. YK has a few things to say. Go ahead, BC.
Yes, so what I see is, when I watch some of these American movies and they want to play a Nigerian or a South African, they tone down they tell you to speak. You see someone who has an American accent playing a Nigerian role, the English is different. They try to mimic the Nigerian English. What we are running away from, people have recognized as originality for us. But and it still comes from a place of not knowing who we are, not having that integrity in our culture because of the colonialism that has happened. So everything white is seemed to be beautiful. And that's why a lot of English women and men are confused. You go to radio stations, television houses, you hear different accents. You don't know, this one sounds somewhere close to American ghetto. That one sounds British ghetto. This one, and everybody is claiming to, I speak it right, I get it. And it's so confusing. But most of the shows that, for me, has made impact are those shows that understand that we need to sound who we are. The focus should be on getting your sentences right. So you're speaking English, forming your grammar, making sure that your grammar is right.
You are saying past tense, don't say present.
Don't say present, right. Arranging it properly in such a way that people can hear you and understand what you're saying. But I'm looking forward to that time where we will have a Nigerian dictionary, where we have our Nigerian words and our Nigerian pronunciations.
You see, let me go on a break, because sometimes I feel like we sometimes sound hypocritical, because as great as these things sound, in reality, when we go out there, we act totally different. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
I don't. Speak for yourself. Yes.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. All right, so we're taking this conversation now more to the part of identity, because I think it was Bisi that took us there. I've shared this story several times on TV, and I think it was while in school, there's a young boy, his name is Idris. Idris was born to Nigerian parents. He was born and raised in Brooklyn. Now, this boy, he was working with me, and he had a problem. He was almost at the point of committing suicide, because with the Nigerian community, it wasn't accepted, because he had the ghetto behavior. There was always yabbing him. He couldn't speak Yoruba. He was just one of those, he was a ghetto boy according to the family. But on the American side, he was a Nigerian boy that had a bit of an accent because he was born and raised and was talking to African parents. So he didn't know where to find himself. So among the Nigerian community, you can't gel when they're speaking English or when they're speaking Yoruba or when they're speaking cracking jokes. With Americans, you can't connect because they still see you as a foreigner. Your name is different, you look different and everything. So he was so frustrated, caught between two worlds. And I remember that time, he used to come to me and he used to cry because he desperately wanted to speak Yoruba. He wanted to identify with the young, because then I was president of Twese. It was an African organization. He wanted me to find a way to teach him Yoruba so that he can at least belong to the African group. Now, that's what some Nigerians abroad may be going through. I don't know if they're still going through that. But the issue of identity, in what you said earlier, that can we and do we understand who we are? And have we defined what a Nigerian accent is? Or do we need to have a Nigerian accent?
Yeah, go ahead.
Recently, I came across a YouTube content, Max Crony. He's a Benin guy, and he does comedy in Benin language, but in Pidgin. And because it is not Pidgin Warri or Pidgin Lagos, it's Pidgin Benin, I could identify, because I grew up seeing my grandparents and grand-aunties using the facial expressions and all of that. In fact, alone in the house on a particular day, I think I finished over almost all of his contents and laughing alone. My children couldn't connect. That identity is something that will be strange to my children if it doesn't become the standard accepted. If somebody says, no, being like that, being a Benin person is strange, then the Edo identity just suddenly will kill it deliberately because we don't want it. Then our children grow up and they don't find a place for themselves. I'm wondering every day how my children, growing up and watching the kind of contents that they see on this, cartoons and all of that, and the way they try to speak, especially Imran, speaking that way. I'm constantly saying to them, it's okay to speak like me. It's normal because this is where you're born. Trying to find an identity to give to that child. So I would love that it is a deliberate, conscious psychology that, people in decision-making policies around education are bothered about. Right now, what I'm looking for is a private teacher who can teach my children, not Edo languages, the ASAC or Afemai languages, words, numbers, everything, because I struggled at 13. I could hardly pronounce an Esako word. It was a gift that my father said, okay, between both of us, this is our standard language of communication. If now I cannot give that to my child, what would my child give to their child?
Nothing.
Did God make mistake creating that group of people? No. We cannot continue to reject everything and accept whatever somebody else is bringing. It's the way you carry yourself that they'll carry you.
Good morning. You're live. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Thanks for calling. Mr. Peter.
Yeah, I think this issue of language or pronunciation is more like we are synchronized mentally. Because it's more like, even our national anthem. Can any of you even say the national anthem in Yoruba or in Igbo? So it's like we are still colonized mentally. All we know is a copy and paste. But Nigeria as its own, we have our own intonation. We have our own pronunciation. A South African man can pronounce anything anywhere, and you will go away with it. But we Nigerians, in our own Nigeria, we will have issues with ourselves with pronunciation. And now we've transferred it to the schools. The schools are helping us to teach our children how to pronounce the Western way, whereas we are in Nigeria. We always have this issue of copy and paste. But Nigeria, can we just come up with our own? Can we hug our own?
Thank you very much, Peter. The reason why I use the word hypocritical, because we are all in this space. Yeah. We all go to schools. We all see our children, and we're so proud when our children come out speaking with this really nice, polished act. We all feel so proud. Like, yes, my money is working.
Yeah. I don't.
You know?
So I don't.
But the reality is that many people feel that you are... Yeah, let me let you come in.
Okay, so I think we need to separate this being well-spoken and putting an accent on. They're two different things. I gave an example earlier. I remember with my grandma growing up, there's some times when I would speak Hausa and she'd be like, cool. Meaning, don't speak that sort of Hausa outside, or they'll laugh at you. Your grammar is bad, or my pronunciation or something in the Hausa language was bad. And it made me understand that it's not only with English that there's a standard to how well you speak it. Even in our local language, there is a standard. And we need to take the time out to do it properly. I have heard some Yoruba people, when they speak Yoruba, and you would ask, did this person study it? They would never even use an English language in between, when they are speaking it. So I feel that when we say we want our children to be well-spoken, we're not necessarily saying, let them put on an American or British accent. Let them just know the proper grammar and how to pronounce it, how to use the right idiomatic expressions, whether in our local language or in the English language that you have decided to speak. So when you say we're being hypocritical, it will be, I don't see it necessarily as being hypocritical in that sense. But if it's about putting on an accent, American and British, now I see that. But I think that is phasing off. Because I've seen people who, when they put up maybe a video of their child speaking in an accent foreign from ours, everybody's wowed by it. We're like, whoa, did you hear that? He speaks so very, that child speaks very well. And not necessarily because the child is speaking well or better than the other person speaking in Nigerian intonation, accent, pronunciation. It's just the fact that America is better, Britain is better, But that I see gradually phasing out. Because I used to remember also there was a time where people wanted their children to go abroad so that they could school there and come back to get better, advantages because of the way that they sounded. But many people are not going down that road. And it's also a, what would we say? People will say it's a new money thing. It's a new, when you find yourself, you're now making money that you didn't used to make before. There are some things that you look at and associate with upper class. Okay, now we want to sound like them. But people who have been, they would say old money or have had that education, they understand that it's not about how you sound, but what you are saying.
Okay, let me take this call from Ibrahim. Ibrahim, are you there? You're live. Go ahead, please. Oh, I'm so sorry for being here. I apologize.
Yeah, so I remember there was a time I see some kids watch cartoon and they grab the accent. And after a while, I started questioning myself. Was it something I did wrong that did not make my children grab this Oyibo accent? Then one particular day, I was venting. So my son was just watching cartoon. I walked in, I said, even after all this cartoon you're watching, you will not pick up the accent. And he said, Mommy, I don't need it. I was shocked. And that sort of reminded me of who I think I am and who I know I am. I said, why do you say that? I said, I don't need it. Why do I need to fake an accent? This is how I sound. This is how you sound. Why do I need it? That jolted me back to my senses because I was already feeling, you know, when you hang out with your children, their friends from different families, everybody's doing swing, 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 swing. They have never entered airports. They have never traveled. These ones that don't even have the accent are the ones that constantly travel. And I started feeling like, is there something I'm doing wrong? I had to start questioning myself till that statement he made, and in my heart I thanked him, brought me back to my senses that he doesn't need it. Why does he have to put up an accent? He should just try and speak properly, proper English, proper grammar, and that's it. And where I'm going to with this is, I also remember, because people cannot accept you unless you accept yourself. We keep changing our definitions on how the world is going, not staying where we are so that the world will come around. If you are who you are, the world will find a way to accept you. If BBC can have BBC Pidgin, I don't get it. That's British. I don't get it. Why we are running to, making it sound or making it or having. I've seen very rich, wealthy people who sound normal. Wole Soyinka is a speaker, a writer, everything. He speaks Nigerian English. He sounds normal. He just makes sure his grammar is clean and all that. If you can start teaching people to work on your grammar and ensure that when you want to speak English, you speak it well. But you necessarily do not have to have an accent, so that we can tell who you are, where you're coming from. Outside the world, people will respect you more. The South Africans have, I've said it before, they have a standard English, you know, it's a South African. And they have their works, their books, their dictionary,
African language
everything.
of mixed,
Why can't we as Nigerians build identity in such a way? Where do we want to throw, do you know how many languages we have?
We have to run.
Where do we want to throw all of them to because we want to sound
All right, that's
foreign?
all we can take on this segment. It's going to break. When we come back, we'll move on to another topic. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.